Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Tech Tuesday. I've got Stuart Hamilton with Amba. They've got some amazing technology. We first met about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I guess now, at Mary Furlong's Boomer Longevity Tech Summit in Berkeley. Oakland, I don't know, one of those two. They all sort of run together. And so I know I'm going to enjoy this conversation. You're going to enjoy this conversation. But first, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Stuart, welcome. I'm really excited to talk. It was great to hear what you're working on. Let's start a little bit by talking about who you are and who and what Amba is and does.
Yeah, for sure. So, Steve, I'm thrilled to be here. I've seen so many amazing people on this podcast, and I'm honored to be in their company. So, thanks very much for having me along. I'm Stuart Hamilton. I'm the founder and CEO here at Amba. The little backstory that got Amba off the ground was, my background is engineering and computer science. I've been involved in a number of different startups over quite a long career. One in particular was a big success. We did a big exit. And so I went from being somebody who's scrapping around trying to get something going to being somebody who was making investments and doing a bit of advising and stuff. My dad got old. I moved him into an IL facility. I expected to discover a world of amazing technology for keeping him safe and well. And it was like, okay, this is not great, is it? Like, you can have a big red button, or we can put a camera in your bedroom and your bathroom. So that's where this whole journey started, was how can we build a solution that can help caregivers, look after the people they are either responsible for looking after or want to look after, and to do that in a way that's respectful of privacy and gives them the information they need to deliver great outcomes. So that's what we did, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that today. But the background, I was originally completely selfishly trying to do something for my dad 10 years ago. Now we're doing it for thousands of people in the US and Canada and the UK.
So terrific. So I want to actually start by, you've got a funny accent. So where are you from? Where's your company from?
I haven't got an accent.
I know. So, I've got the accent, right?
So I'm from the UK. I actually began my career in California working for an engineering design consulting firm, and I absolutely love this country. But I am based in the UK at the moment. Our biggest market is the United States. Most of our customers are here. Most of the people we're caring for are here. But our engineers are based in the UK, and our sales and marketing and so on is based here in the US. So yeah, I live in London. I come from North Wales, but I live in London.
Okay. So so talk to me. Let's talk a little bit about what the technology does. So you sort of danced around it, that it's not a push button and not a camera. So what does it do?
Well, what it does is, as far as possible, we passively collect information about seniors as they go about their day, and in many ways, more importantly, as they go about their night. So we don't make any of the sensors. We're just constantly searching for the best passive sensors that we can find to deploy into the homes of seniors. And then our platform takes the information from the various sensors that might be telling us about heart rate or breathing rate or bathroom visits or medication compliance or nutrition. And we look at that information and surface it to caregivers in a form that they can do something with, an alert that says Stu has got early signs of an infection, or Bill's just got out of bed and is very vulnerable. You might want to get a caregiver up there. So it's passive sensors, a platform in the background, and then alerts and notifications to caregivers. There are cameras and buttons and wearables compatible with our platform, but that's not the place we want to be. Those are the things that we find the most difficult to deploy, with the permission of residents, is cameras, buttons, and wearables. They've got a place. But what we try and do is find passive sensors that just mean you get on with your day and your night, and we're gathering the information as you go.
Okay, so let's start. So I've got two sensors here. I've got a Samsung Ring, and I've got a Fitbit watch. Can you take both of that data?
Yeah, we can take. We've got the Apple Watch is compatible with our system, but as are sleep monitors that go underneath your mattress. Devices that can analyze your urine when you go to the loo. It's a real broad range of different devices. We don't have that ring integrated yet. We should get on with doing that, but we do have the Apple Watch and a whole bunch of other wrist-based wearables. The challenge with those, as everybody understands, is it's not always possible, particularly in AL and definitely in memory care, to get a senior to comfortably and happily wear a new wearable in a way that means we're collecting the information that we need. So we do everything we can to gather information in a more ambient way rather than with wearables.
So maybe a better way for me to actually approach this is I'm a senior living operator. I'm watching this live stream right now, and I'm thinking, okay, I know I should be collecting more resident data. Right now, I've got a pennant, I've got a push button. Maybe I've got a camera in the bathroom, maybe not. And I come to Stuart and say, "Hey, Stuart, I want to up the game here, and really understand what's going on with my residents. I want to do things like, my dream is fall protection, or detection, or even prevention. I want to be able to identify changes in condition. Would be probably the two primary things. I guess I'm thinking, how would you have me start?"
Well, it's a great question, and a really common question, because obviously part of our challenge is the breadth of different sensors that we can make available. And so, we need to find ways to make it easy to deploy a simple solution that your care staff can start getting used to going, "Oh, wow, I just got this notification on my phone. I should go and make this intervention, and then I'll be able to look again and see if the intervention was successful." You want to start with some simple scenarios that are not too risky or challenging for your care staff, so they can just get used to this idea that instead, for example, instead of sticking their head around the door of every AL resident every hour, suddenly you can see a dashboard and you can see it's the middle of the night, most of your residents are absolutely fine, but these ones aren't. This one's just got out of bed. You might want to go see them. This one's continence pad needs changing. You might want to do something about that. This person's just left their room. You might want to get up there and do something about that. So our recommendation as a starting point is you start with typically 3 sensors that collect information about health, activity, and sleep. And it's a really simple deployment. When those 3 sensors are deployed, you can barely see them. In fact, 2 of them you definitely can't see, and the third one is very, very small. And you deploy those 3 sensors, and suddenly we can start giving you health information like heart rate, breathing rate, symptoms of sleep apnea, and so on. Sleep information like quality of sleep, whether, if you're lying in bed for a couple of hours before you fall asleep, you might want to change that resident's care plan and say, well, maybe we need to do something a bit different here. So sleep information is really, really useful. Activity information is things like counting bathroom visits, particularly at night, counting entries and exits to the room by caregivers and by the resident. So that's where we would start with, is sleep, activity, and health, and just deploy that. Takes about 15 minutes to deploy, no hardwiring at all, really, really simple. The dashboard that we provide comes to life, and your caregivers can start experiencing what happens when you've got all this wonderful information that you previously didn't have.
So how do I talk to me a little bit about the dashboards? And here, let me set the stage on this. There are actually 2 questions that I've written down that I'm really fascinated by. The first is this: how do you avoid alarm alert fatigue? I think that, we watched these horrific floods that took place in Texas over the 4th of July weekend, just horrible things. And one of the things that appears to have happened is that they get flood warnings on a pretty regular basis that turn out to be nothing. And so perhaps the one that was real didn't get as much attention as it should. And we know that these are problems in airplane cockpits and other places. How do you make sure you have the right ones, but without overloading people?
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question, Steve. And again, particularly because we're dealing with a fairly broad set of devices if a client chooses to do that. And the main way in which we deal with overload of alerts is the configuration for each resident is completely customizable for them. So for example, a very vulnerable, using that really simple example of a bed exit, there'll be some residents who perfectly successfully navigate a bed exit several times a night for all kinds of reasons. They go to the bathroom themselves, they watch a bit of TV, they read a book, they grab a glass of water, whatever it might be. And once our system is deployed, we don't set anything for a couple of weeks. And then we can go, right, let's just walk through for each of these residents, what circumstances we want to raise an alert. And it's totally configurable. There's nothing. So for the very vulnerable person, you want to be there the moment they get out of bed. But for the less vulnerable, like in IL, we've got people who only they have the sensors in place, but they'll wait hours before raising an alert. They say, you know what, this person is totally fine. They're in IL. They're not receiving any care. But you know what? If they're not in bed by 2 a.m, we're going to give them a call and just go, is everything okay? Not do it the moment there's some tiny little possibility of something going wrong. So it's a really careful balance between how responsive you want your care to be and not getting overloaded. But the main way in which we ensure that is every alert is completely configurable according to the particular resident, and that you don't set anything up for a couple of weeks. You wait till everybody thinks they know what normal is. And then we put the sensors in and they go, Steve gets out of bed for an hour every night. Look at that, every single, and you just, I didn't know that. Of course you did. Why would you know that, right? So it is worth just letting the system settle in. We've got some tools for helping to automate the process of setting the right alerts up. But at the end of the day, you can see the data, you can set the alerts. And if you're getting too many alerts of a certain kind that are not helping you, you just alter the settings and you're good to go.
Terrific. So one of the questions, the Jeanette Rogers asked this question: do you provide two-way communication between the resident and the staff if something's going on?
We don't. Some of our clients have got systems for doing that, and you can still use those. So for example, if you did detect a situation at night that you were concerned about, and rather than sending a resident, you wanted to communicate rather than sending a caregiver, you want to communicate with the resident, you can pick up the phone, you can use the normal nurse call communication system. But that bit of it, we typically find our clients have got other reasons they want to communicate with their residents. So we let them use their existing communication system. We just provide them with the content and the information that says, you might want to make an intervention here, either with a call, through the nurse call, or by visiting the resident.
So to me, that's an area where a camera might be very helpful, where you could just turn on a camera and take a look in and see if it's somebody rolling over in bed or getting a glass of water or has somebody ended up on the floor, right?
Yeah, and different residents and different care providers have got different approaches here, and it depends a little bit on the circumstances of the resident. We've got some clients who do use, the equivalent, or actually, Amazon Echo drop-ins and things like that. The thing we're bringing to our clients is the passive collection of the information that you need to decide what you want to do. Do I want to go up to the room? Do I want to pick up the phone? Do I, if I've got the consent of the resident, want to switch on a camera? The bit of it that we provide is, this is how things are going. Here on the dashboard is all this green, but here's a bit, we're called Amba because those are our favorite alerts. Our favorite alerts, Steve, are the ones where everything is actually okay, but you've discovered early that because someone's sleeping heart rate has been elevated the last few nights, because their bathroom visits have doubled from whatever normal is, because their sleep has become a bit more erratic and disturbed, you go and do a UTI check and you go, oh, wow, we've caught this before it even turned into serious discomfort. Our clients typically double or triple the number of UTIs that they detect once they deploy the system. So we're trying to, and similarly, an alert that says the resident is out of bed in AL that results in a caregiver visiting and helping into the bathroom, that's the alert we want. It's not the alert that says they've been out of bed for 30 minutes and you go and find them on the floor. Because we see huge reductions in falls, particularly amongst your most vulnerable residents. We see reductions of like 50 or 60% in nighttime falls in our clients. We see hospitalizations down by over 30% because the reduced falls, the reduced serious infections. That's the stuff that we love. We're not trying to detect a disaster. We're trying to detect something's not quite right here. If I can get this information to the right person, they can make an intervention that will prevent the really bad outcome that would otherwise have happened. And that's why we're called Amba. We've obviously spelt it wrong because that's what you do when you start a new business, right? But we're called Amba because we're trying to avoid red alerts.
Okay, perfect. So I'll get so much I want to. So first off, this sounds really expensive. I want to talk about money and cost in just a minute. But before I do that, the other thing that I worry a lot about when I see these technology systems is that if I don't have to stick my head in because I've got all this technology, am I actually, how do I keep from increasing the loneliness and isolation problem because of the technology?
I mean, that's just a great question. So the things we're trying to help caregivers not have to do are the things that in themselves don't have a lot of value. You know, getting a caregiver to open a door of an AL resident and make sure, and typically they're not going to normally go over and actually check their actual health and well, they're just going to go, yeah, they're in bed, I think everything's okay, I'll go to the next one. Right. And of course you'll then discover that there are situations in which that's not actually happening. You know, people are ticking the list of people they've checked on, but they haven't had time to do it, they've been doing something else. Yep. And so on. So where we can remove low value tasks like that and replace them with, can you imagine, replace them with, I'm changing the continence pad of this resident and I'm comfortable that the other residents are in bed. So I'm not rushing along and going like, I got to get out of here and get around the rest of these rooms because who knows what's happening in these other rooms. So you can concentrate the focus, the attention, the skills, the compassion of your caregivers on the people that need some assistance right now and not use them as essentially a glorified video. They're just going around looking in people's rooms. Right. I mean, the classic example of that, Steve, is continence management, where we're working with a number of different amazing companies who are trying to get the product just right for detecting that a continence pad needs changing, right? In the absence of a technology like that, for the rest of your life, you're getting woken up every 3 hours for someone to check your continence pad and if necessary, change it and so on, and maybe miss it. Adding that sensor means you now have the caregiver coming to see you, not stressed out, not rushing off to do another check and going, hey, Steve, we just got to get this done. You know, the sensor has told us to do this. So we would certainly claim that we create more time for a caregiver to do the amazing, compassionate things that only they can do. And the other way, by the way, that we do that is instead of caregivers now coming to see you and saying, how did you sleep last night? Are you drinking enough water? Did you take your pills? Are you in a bit more pain or less pain than yesterday? They've got all that information, right? They come along and say, hey, Steve, you must be exhausted, man. You know, there's another tough night. We're going to have to think about what we're doing today. We're going to get out in the sunshine today and make sure that tonight is a better night. So the personalized nature of the care that only your caregivers can deliver, we support that by removing some of the other difficult activities and something, collecting information and analyzing it. We do all that. And your caregivers can focus on the thing that only they can do, right? Is that skillful, compassionate delivery of personalized care.
Good. So I love this a lot. I think some of this, of course, is outside your scope. Some of this is culture, right? So I, as an operator, I install the Amba system in there. Part of it's my job is to say, hey, this is going to free up time. That doesn't mean we're going to add additional residents for you to care for. What it's going to mean is you can go use that time to develop your relationships with your resident, right? So
that's right.
And that's not something you can fix. So
no, well, and that's, you know, it's up to our clients, of course, the way that they use the extra space and time that we can deliver. I can say that in the vast majority of time, it isn't about going, oh, great, we can take some labor out. It's actually we can provide better care. And part of the reason for that is uniquely in the United States, there's this Medicare reimbursement available for systems like ours that makes the whole, there's two amazing, shall I just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, would you please? Yeah.
Yeah, so it turns out, and again, your listeners may well know all about this, but when we first came into the United States a bit more than a year ago and started deploying systems, and we were amazed at the response that we were getting. And then someone said, "Oh yeah, this is probably reimbursable," and we were like, "What?" And discovered that yes, indeed, there are reimbursement codes that Medicare has, where if you are a physician and you are collecting clinically useful information from somebody for whom the collection of that information is valuable, the physician needs to obviously state that that is the case. But for most older people, they'll have at least one chronic condition, and collecting heart rate and breathing rate and sleep apnea symptoms and all that kind of stuff is going to be useful in the huge majority of cases. CMS will reimburse that physician for the technology that's been deployed, and will also reimburse that physician for people that they supervise looking at the data on the Amba platform, right? So we go along to a client and say, this is what we want to do. This is what our clients are delivering in terms of reductions in falls and hospitalizations and improvements in care quality. And by the way, we can either work with your existing physician group, or we've got a physician group, several actually, that you can choose from. And this physician group will pay you or us, but essentially cover some of the cost of the Amba system. And they will supervise a group of people who for a couple of minutes every day will look at each resident for a couple of minutes and go, yeah, that all looks good. Hang on a minute. Has this person changed their medications, or so what's happened here? Something really odd is it? And they will do that at no cost to you and inform you when they discover things. And it's their, medical insurance that covers the ins and outs of that. It's been a really, really welcome arrangement for quite a few of some clients just go, too complicated, we don't need that, we're just going to buy the system and put it in. But others are finding that to be really, really attractive, both commercially and in terms of bringing additional clinical care to their residents, with hugely great results.
And they're doing this in assisted living and memory care?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, terrific. No, that's great. I wasn't aware of that, so that's super. Let's talk a little bit about cost.
Yeah.
We know there have been a couple of surveys that have come out in the last few weeks that have talked about technology, and one of the big barriers, frankly, is cost.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to throw a little bit more at you because we don't have a huge amount of time, and I want to make sure we get to this. So cost is a big part of it.
Yeah.
The second thing is, of course, just the people, energy, effort, time, the fatigue of using it and training it and maintaining it. So I'm going to just throw that as a sort of this ball of twine that you've got to untangle.
Great. And great questions, of course. So in terms of I can be absolutely specific in terms of the cost. Well, first of all, it obviously depends on the combination of sensors that you've chosen to use. But going back to your earlier question, which has proven to be a key one for us, where our clients are going, look, this is great, but where do we start? So if we just start with sleep and activity and health, those three sensors deployed in the homes of each of your residents, that solution, and it works great in IL, by the way, we are able to show, how we can slow down the transition of residents from IL to AL, how we can reduce falls and serious infections in AL and memory care and so on. But that is $65 US per month per resident for that system. And of course, if you were buying the system for a short period of time, we would also need to charge for the equipment and the deployment and all the rest of it. But what we do is, if we can sign a 3-year contract at $65, we can absorb substantially all of those upfront costs. If there are some complexities and so on, but you might need to, but often we can absorb all of the upfront costs in exchange for a $65 subscription. And we think we're confident that's, obviously we would say that, wouldn't it? We think it's great value because we don't make this equipment. It's already manufactured in massive numbers. Each of the devices we use is already on the market, certified for use, produced by a whole bunch of different companies. That's not your problem, but it means that we do have, really good access to, because we buy in huge volumes, as you can imagine, and we pass that benefit on. And of course, if that's still an issue, there's two things that our clients do. One of them is, particularly in AL and memory care, let's go look at the available reimbursement for the legitimate residents for whom this information is clinically interesting. And in IL, when you show IL residents what the benefits are, as often as not, they'll pay for it and just go, this is fantastic. It's going to keep me independent and so on. So that was your first question. And the second one around the complexity for for everybody, frankly.
Right, for everybody. Yeah.
We try and make the caregiver bit of this ultra simple. So the ideal situation is that your caregivers have a mobile handset, and so what they will receive is a notification saying, room 6, resident out of bed, please attend. They'll try and close the alert when they get there, and as an organization, you can either say, yeah, they can just close it, or you can say, you've got to choose a reason code. Here are 6 things, resident was fine, false alarm, resident was, I've got to stay, I need some help, whatever it might be. So click to close it, choose the reason code, job done. So elsewhere, care coordinators and clinicians and so on, there's a whole set of much richer functionality for looking for signs of infection, creating reports to send to family members, changing the settings that people are using. But the caregivers, it's really, really simple. And the way we sort of think about it is that the care managers, the care coordinators, and the clinicians are using the platform to go, in these circumstances, this is what I want to happen. I want someone to go and see this person. The caregivers are just going about their day going, whoop, I just got an alert. I'm going to go and attend to that now, close it down, and then I'll carry on with whatever I was doing. So for caregivers, it is pretty simple. And so, and we obviously learned the hard way that it needed to be pretty simple, because we've got clients with, as you'd be very aware, with staff turnover well north of 50%. So you can't afford, we don't do training classes. You can't do those. You'll go back 3 months later and there's a whole different collection of people. So we just have really simple system, really simple little videos, short videos, wherever you are on the platform, you just go, what's this? And the last thing I should say, I don't know how long we've got, but the one of the most amazing things that we are seeing in terms of ease of use is inevitably is AI. We originally used AI, and we have got in the platform to look for trends in the data and surface them automatically, which is really great. We've used AI to turn the data that we're collecting into natural language summaries that automatically go into EHR or go into report. The thing that is really moving our clients and going, this is amazing, is when we built a natural language interface for caregivers. So now they just take their handset and they go, hey, Amber, who's out of bed in memory care? And the user, it doesn't speak back. The user interface presents an image that says, these are the residents that are out of bed in memory care. And when we built that and thought, wow, this is great. This is for people who don't even want to learn to use the platform, right? The real breakthrough was when we started asking it complicated questions. Because once we taught the AI to use the system, you can say literally, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got 10 floors of AL and memory care. Which floor has the most open alerts per resident? Because I need to get a caregiver up to help on that floor. And you can't do that on our platform. But the AI can go and get all the information and present it back and go, there you go. So we think in terms of ease of use, that is going to be a really big deal when that goes into production next month.
That is cool. I love that. So does it tie in with EHR?
Yes. So
okay.
EHR, we can put all the sort of clinically interesting stuff, heart rate and breathing rate and all that kind of stuff. And we do that with all the with Alice and PCC and all those. We've got great relationships with those organizations. Unfortunately, if you like, there's often not a home in an EHR for the information we're collecting. How many times you went to the bathroom, how well you slept last night. So we put that in natural language, and that's what the AI does. It creates a natural language summary, and we put it in the EHR as if somebody's written, as if someone sat with your resident for the last 6 hours and goes, okay, this is what happened for the last 6 hours, because there's nowhere to put that data yet. There will be. All of those organizations are adding more fields there. But in the meantime, we use a natural language summary for all the other richer data that we get and put it in the EHR.
Okay, perfect. So we got about a minute and a half left. How do people find you? How do they engage with you? How do they get started?
So
this is your commercial time.
That's fantastic. The easiest way is go to amberhealth.com or email me at stu@amber.co. If you're going to any of the popular conferences, that's where we've had the greatest results. The usual Health Tech and Senior Living 100 and all those great, the Senior Living Innovation Forum, we get a great result of those if you go into any of those. But just contact us directly. We'd be absolutely thrilled to show you the platform, but much more importantly, to show you the results we're getting and just play you a video or two of our clients getting actually excited, saying, this is what outcomes we've delivered. We'd be thrilled to talk to you and show you how to do that.
Cool. Stuart, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for joining me. I know being a road warrior and having to do this from a hotel is always more of a challenge. I end up hosting more than I care to admit from hotel rooms and those kinds of things as well. So again, thank you very much for joining me, and we will be back on Friday with another great leadership conversation. And you should reach out to Stuart and take a look at their system.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Steve. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here. And I love what you're doing. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.